Big news tonight in the medical realm. For the first time, there's new guidelines that will tell all women who have had breast cancer, even if they're cancer-free now, to be tested for the BRCA gene. What's up with this? Here's Adrienne with what you need to know tonight.
Hey there, Jana. The new guidelines say more women need the breast cancer gene test. We're talking about two genes, BRCA1 and BRCA2. If you have already survived cancer, the new guidelines recommend you get a BRCA test.
So this is a population that has been missed. It is estimated that between the women with a personal history of breast cancer and those with a family history of breast cancer, that as many as 50% of women who should be tested have not undergone genetic testing.
Everybody, men and women, have those genes. Here's the deal. When these genes mutate, the body can't repair damaged DNA as well. That can increase the chances of breast, ovarian, and other cancers. It's most commonly detected after affected family members get a cancer diagnosis. Then people are moved to get checked. Angelina Jolie made headlines when she announced she had a mutation in her BRCA1 gene, so she decided to have both breasts removed. Then she had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed. This was her form of prevention. Most cancer isn't caused by BRCA mutations. They account for 5% to 10% of breast cancers and 15% of ovarian cancers. The BRCA gene test is a blood test that uses DNA analysis to identify harmful changes or mutations. Keep in mind, these mutations may increase the risk of other types of cancer in women and men. The first step is to meet with a genetic counselor. Jana?
All right, so how much does this testing cost? You might be wondering. Well, if you fall under the categories Adrienne was just talking about, a majority of insurance plans will cover that cost. Now, if you don't have health insurance or if your insurance doesn't cover the cost, you could qualify for financial help. We have a lot more information on this. It's hard to understand. I realize that. So go to KARE11.com and check it out if it affects you.